Dragon King Valerian Ostmere burned Clarissa Denholm's Blue Ember incense at the foot of his coronation throne, while 12 war dragons watched from the cerulean smoke court. He did not burn it in secret. That would have been less cruel. He ordered the brass treatment chest carried to the center of the blue marble floor beneath banners stitched with gold flame, before nobles, generals, priests, and every dragon captain who had ever brought a trembling beast to Clarissa's hands after battle. Clarissa stood beside the empty keeper's rail in a plain black widow's gown, her silver hair pinned beneath a smoke-blue scarf. Her fingers still smelled faintly of crushed moonleaf, bitter lavender root, ash fennel, and the blue ember resin that took 3 seasons to cure properly. It did not sedate dragons. It did not tame them. It gave battle-traumatized beasts a scent path back to breath when bells, crowds, flame bursts, and cheering bodies pulled them into the war they had survived. Blue Ember did not command calm. It mapped return. The smoke had to be laid in slow circles before flame exposure, giving a dragon's lungs a path from siege memory back to present breath. War apothecary Marek stood at Valerian's right, his white ceremonial coat spotless, his copper medicine seals polished against his chest. "Your Majesty," Marek said, "the coronation must prove that Ostmere dragons remain disciplined by blood, command, and flame, not widow smoke. A coronation dragon must breathe with the throne, Majesty, not with a widow's kitchen smoke." A few nobles murmured approval. Widow smoke. Not breath mapping. Not scent circle work. Not the reason 3 scarred war dragons had stopped clawing their own wings raw during last year's victory bells. Clarissa kept her hands folded. If she clenched them, they would say grief made her unstable. If she wept, they would call that proof. Valerian stood before the coronation throne, tall and dark beneath an unfinished crown of black gold. His dragons waited behind him in crescent formation, each chained lightly by ceremony, not restraint. Their scales had been oiled until they shone like weapons. Their horns wore blue silk. Their eyes watched too many torches. Clarissa watched their breathing. Too fast, too shallow. Especially Sablethorn, the iron-gray male at the left pillar, whose wing scars still tightened whenever bells rang. "My king," she said, voice steady, "do not burn the chest." Valerian looked at her then. For one dangerous heartbeat, the court disappeared, and she saw the man who had once sat on her kitchen floor after the southern siege with dragon ash in his hair and his hands shaking too hard to hold a cup. He had let her light one thread of blue ember incense beside him. He had breathed with it until the battle left his eyes. Later, he had said, "You make silence feel survivable." Today, he looked away first. Marek's voice softened. "Mistress Denholm confuses comfort with readiness. Command breath conditioning must teach dragons to withstand bells, crowds, and royal flame without dependence." Clarissa turned her head. "Fear remains whether you mock it or not." A general frowned. "The apothecary says your blend dulls instinct." "My blend returns breath before instinct mistakes a bell for a siege horn." Marek smiled gently, the way cruel men smiled when they wanted the room to admire their patience. "That is the language of grief, not coronation discipline." Clarissa's wedding ring hung on a black cord beneath her collar. Her husband had died during a royal parade 7 years earlier when a bell-shocked dragon broke formation. The report called it crowd accident. Marek had called it unavoidable. Clarissa had spent every year after learning what the kingdom preferred not to know. Dragons remembered war in their lungs. Valerian stepped closer to the chest. "Clarissa," he said. Her name in his mouth still knew the shape of private nights and unsent letters. "She hated that. You know what it does," she said quietly. "Not because you were told, because you breathed beside it." His jaw tightened. Marek's eyes sharpened. The court heard the intimacy and did not know what to do with it. Valerian's voice cooled. "A king cannot build coronation discipline around private remedies." "No," Clarissa said, "but he can destroy them publicly to prove he never needed them." The blow landed. Not enough to stop him. Valerian turned toward the throne brazier. "The dragons will stand under command." Marek bowed, as they should. Clarissa's heart sank with a heaviness that felt older than anger. "Then record that I object," she said. Marek lifted a parchment. "Already recorded." Widow's sedative influence rejected before coronation flame. Write the truth, Clarissa said. Blue Ember scent, circles withheld from battle, traumatized dragons exposed to bells, crowd heat, and royal flame. Valerian looked at the dragons. Sablethorn's claws scraped the marble. Pale gold Arvessa began to blink too slowly, the way dragons did before memory swallowed the room. Clarissa stepped forward. Your Majesty, if the coronation flames ignite without calming circles, they will not hear ceremony, they will hear siege fire. Marek gave a small sigh. There. She admits it. She believes royal dragons cannot distinguish crown from war. No, Clarissa said. I believe dragons should not have to prove loyalty by panicking quietly. Silence struck the court. Valerian reached into the chest and lifted a bundle of blue-black incense sticks. For a moment, his fingers trembled. She saw it. So did Marek. The apothecary leaned close. Strength must be seen before it is trusted, Majesty. Coronation flame will not purify it, Clarissa said. It will break the circle sequence, burn the resin without spacing, and the scent path collapses before the dragons can follow it. Valerian placed the bundle into the brazier. Blue smoke rose once. Then, orange coronation fire swallowed it. Clarissa did not move as 3 seasons of work, 7 years of grief, and every careful breath she had saved turned to ash before the throne. Valerian looked at her through the flame. Not cruel. Worse. Certain. The coronation proceeds, he said. The royal bells sounded. The throne flames ignited in a crown of gold. And the 3 scarred war dragons Clarissa had treated after the southern siege panicked first. Sablethorn reared, eyes white with old battlefield terror. Arvessa slammed her tail against the marble. A bronze veteran at the eastern pillar dragged his claws hard enough to spark blue stone. Their terror pulled the others toward the edge of it. Valerian shouted command. The dragons did not hear him. Clarissa stepped into the smoke. The ashes of the burned incense lifted from the floor. Not all at once. Grain by grain. Blue sparks rose around her feet, around the broken chest, around the dragon's claw marks in the marble. The ash did not become a leash. It did not silence them. It formed slow blue circles beneath each panicked beast, wide enough for breath, soft enough for memory to find its way back. Sablethorn's roar broke into a shuddering inhale. Arvessa lowered her head 1 inch. Clarissa looked at Valerian across the burning throne. The ashes remembered what command had tried to prove unnecessary. Blue Ember response. Burned resin formed missing calming circles after flame exposure. Marek did not deny the burned resin had formed calming circles. He denied that circles meant the dragons needed them. The blue ash still turned beneath Sablethorn's claws, slow and patient as breath drawn through pain. Around him, the other scarred dragons trembled at the edge of panic, their wings half spread, their eyes caught between throne flame and siege memory. Nobles crouched behind fallen benches. Priests clutched their gold censers as if ceremony could hide them. Valerian stood before the burning throne, command still in his throat and failure still ringing around him. Marek stepped carefully over a broken marble tile. Residual ash forms familiar shapes, Majesty. It does not prove necessity. Mistress Denholm trained certain dragons to answer her blend. Of course, the residue arranged itself according to old scent memory. Clarissa stood inside the drifting blue smoke. Ask which lungs remembered siege first. Valerian's eyes moved to her. Not soft. Not yet. But no longer certain. Which dragons panicked first? He asked. The nearest captain straightened, face pale. Sablethorn, Arvessa, Branth, at the eastern pillar. Clarissa did not look away from the dragons. All 3 were southern siege survivors. Marek folded his hands. All 3 are highly responsive beasts. Their sensitivity is precisely why command breath conditioning is necessary. Their sensitivity is why circles should have been laid before flame. Dependence should not be rewarded with ritual accommodation. Clarissa looked at him then. Breath is not dependence. The words moved through the court more quietly than a roar, but they reached the chain crews first. Men who had slept beside war dragons knew the difference between weakness and a creature trying not to remember fire. Valerian turned to the high coronation scribe. Were calming circles laid before royal flame exposure? The scribe looked down at his record board. Marek answered, No, Majesty. By command protocol, the court was cleared of non-royal smoke before ignition. That was not the question, Valerian said. The scribe swallowed. No calming circles were laid. Clarissa closed her eyes once. Not in defeat. In the bitter exhaustion of hearing truth arrive after harm. Marek lifted his voice enough for the nobles to hear. The flame exposure was necessary royal discipline. A coronation cannot pause for every old battlefield tremor. If dragons are to carry a king, they must learn the difference between crowd heat and enemy fire. My dragons know the difference, Clarissa said. Marek's smile thinned. Your dragons? The correction was a blade wrapped in velvet. Clarissa felt it cut exactly where he aimed. Widow, caretaker, woman without rank, woman whose hands had been useful in the dark but embarrassing beneath banners. She answered without flinching. The dragons whose breathing I have held when command left the room. Silence followed. Valerian's jaw tightened. He had been one of those rooms once. Marek saw the memory flicker and pressed harder. Mistress Denholm's language proves my concern. She has built emotional attachment into military creatures. Ash circles are scent memory, not proof of need. Clarissa stepped out of the nearest blue ring. It continued turning without her. The court saw it. So did Valerian. She lifted one hand toward Sablethorn but did not touch him. If I trained him to obey me, the circle would follow my hand. It does not. It follows his breath. Sablethorn dragged in one broken inhale. The blue ring widened with him. Valerian watched the motion as if the floor had begun speaking a language he had refused to learn. Were bells sounded before or after the incense was removed? He asked. The scribe checked the sequence slate. After the chest was burned, Majesty. Clarissa said, ask whether the circles were laid before the flame. I already did. No, she said quietly. You asked whether they were laid. Ask whether they were required in the preparation sequence before royal flame. Marek's head turned slowly. There is no binding requirement. Clarissa's gaze did not leave Valerian. Then why was there a line for it? The scribe went still. Valerian noticed. Read the preparation sequence, he said. Marek stepped forward. Majesty, coronation preparation contains many optional stabilizers. Read it. The scribe's fingers trembled over the blue-edged page. Crowd heat measured, bell rhythm tested, throne flame banked, dragon breathing observed, calming scent, circles to be laid for siege, marked beasts before royal flame exposure. A sound passed through the room, not outrage. Recognition arriving where denial had been standing. Marek bowed his head with careful patience. Recommended language, Majesty, not command law. Clarissa looked at him. You called breath dependence so no one would have to call it preparation. Valerian turned toward Marek, who marked the circles unnecessary. Marek did not hesitate. I did, under coronation apothecary authority. Blue Ember encourages reliance on widow smoke when dragons should anchor to throne rhythm. Clarissa's mouth curved without warmth. The throne did not breathe for them. Valerian's eyes returned to her. There it was again, the private room neither of them named, his hands shaking, her incense burning low, his voice broken enough to be honest. You make silence feel survivable. Today, he had burned that same survival in front of his kingdom. He looked away first. Again. Was Clarissa's objection entered correctly? He asked. The scribe turned the record board. Marek's voice sharpened for the first time. Her objection was emotional, Majesty. Read it, Valerian said. The scribe read, Widow's sedative influence rejected before coronation flame. Clarissa's face did not change. That was how Valerian knew the words hurt. She had learned to survive insults without giving them the satisfaction of proof. What did she ask you to write? He asked. The scribe looked at Clarissa. She answered for herself. Blue Ember scent. Circles withheld from battle. Traumatized dragons exposed to bells, crowd heat, and royal flame. The scribe lowered his eyes. That was not entered, he whispered. Marek spread his hands. Because it assumes need. No, Clarissa said. It names sequence. Sablethorn's blue circle pulsed once. Then Arvis's. Then Brant's. 3 siege-marked dragons, still frightened, still not healed, but breathing inside the circles that should have been waiting for them before the bells. Valerian stared at the preparation page. Command had failed in public, but the record had failed first. Enter the corrected sequence, he said. Marek's eyes narrowed. Majesty, To alter coronation record during active ceremony. Enter it. The scribe dipped his silver pen. Clarissa did not thank Valerian. Correction was not restoration. Truth written late was still late. The scribe read the new line aloud, voice shaking beneath the throne flame. Coronation treatment record. Calming circles withheld before royal flame exposure. Marek did not deny the corrected treatment record. He denied that the record proved command breath failure. The 3 blue circles continued to turn beneath Sablethorn, Arvessa, and Branth, faint now beneath the heat of the coronation throne. They did not make the dragons peaceful. They only gave their breathing somewhere to go, besides back into war. Valerian stood with the half-made crown still waiting behind him. No one moved to place it on his head. Marek noticed that before anyone else did. "Majesty," he said, voice low and disciplined. Command was interrupted by court panic. No rhythm can settle beasts while nobles are screaming beneath their wings. Clarissa stood outside the nearest circle. Blue ash drifted past her black widow's sleeves and did not cling to her. "Ask whether they heard your voice or the siege horn." Valerian looked toward Sablethorn. The iron-gray dragon's chest still hitched, but his claws had stopped tearing marble. One blue ring widened with each difficult inhale. "Did my command reach them before the ash circles formed?" Valerian asked. The high coronation scribe bent over a narrow, sound slate. "Your first command was issued after the bells. I know when I spoke." The scribe swallowed. "No stable response recorded before circle formation." Marek stepped forward. "Because chain crews tightened too early. Pressure at the neck can scatter focus. The command was not allowed to complete." A chain captain looked up, offended and frightened. "We tightened after Sablethorn reared." "After or before the second bell?" Valerian asked. The captain hesitated. Clarissa answered without taking her eyes from the dragons. "Ask why command reached their chains before it reached their lungs." The words struck the crews first. Then the nobles. Then Valerian. The chain captain lowered his head. "We tightened after the first rear, Majesty, before the second command." Marek spread one hand. Reasonable containment. The court environment failed. Not the throne rhythm. "The court environment was the coronation," Clarissa said. "Bells, crowd, heat, flame, silk on horns, polished chains. If command breath cannot reach a siege, marked dragon inside the ceremony it was designed for, what exactly did it prove?" Marek's smile remained patient. "It proves training requires repetition. One panic response does not discredit royal discipline." "One panic response?" Clarissa turned slowly toward him. 3 dragons remembered siege before the second bell finished. Valerian's face tightened. Not guilt yet. Recognition, fighting, pride. "Was command rhythm tested with siege-marked dragons?" he asked. Marek's answer came clean. "Command rhythm was tested in the East Practice Court. That was not my question." The scribe searched the readiness packet. No siege-marked designation attached to the command breath test. Clarissa's jaw moved once. She had expected it. That did not make hearing it softer. Marek said, "Siege, marked is not a formal coronation class. It is a breathing reality," Clarissa said. "A widow's vocabulary. A dragon's lungs do not care what your forms call them." The blue circle beneath Branth pulsed wider at the word lungs, as if the beast had answered the only language in the room that did not demand stillness. Valerian saw it. Marek did too. "Blue Ember ash is interfering with completion of command," Marek said quickly. "Familiar scent creates distraction." The dragons returned to an old pattern instead of accepting the throne. Clarissa stepped farther away from the circles. They kept turning. "Then finish your command," she said. The court froze. "Even Marek stille." Clarissa looked at Valerian. "No smoke in my hand, no touch on their scales, no word from me. If the throne rhythm can reach them now, command." Valerian's eyes met hers. The memory came without permission. Her kitchen, one thread of incense, his hands shaking after battle, her voice saying, "Breathe where you are, not where you were." He had accepted that gentleness in private. Today, he had burned it in public. He lifted one hand toward the dragons. "Sablethorn, down." The court held its breath. Sablethorn's head lowered 1 inch. Not at Valerian's voice. At the widening of the blue circle beneath him. The sound slate chimed once. The scribe looked down. Valerian heard the chime and did not need the translation to know it hurt. "Read it," he said. The scribe whispered. Breath change began before command response. Marek's tone sharpened. The command and the breath change overlapped. Clarissa shook her head. Ask which moved first. Valerian did not look away from the slate. Which moved first? The scribe answered. Circle expansion, then partial command response. A low murmur moved through the cerulean smoke court. Valerian's hand remained lifted, useless in the air for one heartbeat too long. Then he lowered it. That small surrender was not enough, but it was the first time his body admitted what his mouth had not. Marek turned toward the nobles. A partial response still proves command remains active. Mistress Denholm wants the court to confuse recovery aid with failure of royal authority. Clarissa's voice went quiet. Royal authority failed when it demanded breath instead of making room for it. The line seemed to dim the throne flame. Valerian looked at her then, with something almost raw behind his eyes. She refused to soften. Who certified command? Breath readiness, he asked. Marek bowed. I did, under coronation apothecary review. On what test? East court rhythm alignment, bell exposure, flame bank proximity, chain position. With siege, marked breath? Marek Pause. Not long, but long enough. No separate breath classification was required, he said. Clarissa closed her fingers around the edge of her widow's sleeve. Beneath the fabric, old burn scars from incense braziers and panicked dragon breath pulled tight across her palm. She had earned those scars at midnight, kneeling beside beasts that the court only admired when they were polished. Valerian saw her hand move. He almost reached. He stopped before tenderness could pretend to be repair. Good. Was breath return recorded before or after Blue Ember circles formed? He asked. The scribe turned to the final sound slate. Marek said, Majesty, these records are unstable during active panic. Read them. The scribe's voice trembled. First, royal command issued. No stable breath response. Second, royal command interrupted by chain escalation. Blue Ember ash circle forms beneath Sablethorn. Breath steadies. Partial command response follows. Same sequence recorded beneath Arvesa and Branth. Marek's face remained composed. Too composed. Clarissa looked at Valerian across the blue smoke. The throne commanded stillness. The circles gave them return. No one spoke. The scribe lowered the slate into the record tray. Command breath log. Royal command failed before scent circle recovery began. Marek did not deny the command breath log. He denied that one failed ceremony invalidated readiness certification. The sound slate lay in the record tray, still faintly warm from the voices it had captured. Royal command failed before scent circle recovery began. The words did not roar, but they pressed against the cerulean smoke court, harder than the throne flame. Sablethorn breathed inside his fading blue circle. Arvesa's tail no longer struck marble. Branth's bronze claws had stopped sparking against the floor. None of them were calm. They were only back in the room. Marek bowed to Valerian with measured restraint. Siege. Marked is not a formal coronation class, Majesty. Readiness is measured by obedience under command, not comfort under memory. Clarissa stood near the broken incense chest. Blue ash gathered along the hem of her black widow's gown. Ask whether they tested obedience or breathing. Valerian looked at the readiness packet on the bronze table. Who certified Sablethorn ready? Marek did not hesitate. I did, under coronation apothecary review. Was siege, marked breath tested? There is no such requirement. Clarissa's voice stayed quiet. That is not the same as no such need. A few chain crews glanced toward Sablethorn. Marek noticed and turned toward them smoothly. East Court rhythm testing was sufficient. Bell exposure was completed. Flame proximity was tested. Chain position was reviewed. These dragons passed command readiness. Clarissa looked at the high coronation scribe. Did the East Court have bells, flame, crowd heat, and chains together? The scribe checked the record. Marek answered first. No training court can perfectly reproduce a coronation. Valerian's eyes did not leave the scribe. Answer her. The scribe swallowed. No, Majesty. The East Court test used reduced bell rhythm, banked flame, empty galleries, and loose chain alignment. Clarissa closed her eyes once. Reduced bells, banked flame, empty galleries, loose chains. A ceremony with all its teeth removed. then called proof for dragons who would face the real mouth of it. Marek lifted his chin. Controlled testing isolates command response. That is standard readiness practice. Controlled testing told you they could obey where nothing was trying to take them back to war, Clarissa said. The blue circle beneath Branth pulsed once, weak but clear. Valerian saw it. So did the nobles. Were Southern siege survivors listed separately? He asked. The High Coronation scribe turned another page. No separate list is attached. Clarissa looked at the 3 dragons. Ask why siege memory was not a category when 3 dragons carried it in their lungs. Marek's patience sharpened. Mistress Denholm's grief has created private language around battlefield recovery. If every dragon's history becomes a separate coronation class, royal readiness dissolves into endless delay. Delay is what men call preparation when they do not want to admit fear, Clarissa said. Marek's eyes cooled. And fear is what widows call wisdom when grief has nowhere else to live. A hush fell. The insult was elegant enough that the court almost accepted it as reason. Valerian did not. Not fully. But he still did not defend her quickly enough. Clarissa felt the old humiliation pass through her without taking root. She had buried a husband under a parade report that called preventable panic unavoidable. She had no patience left for beautiful cruelty. "Do not use my dead to make your record look clean," she said. The words struck the throne flame hard enough that Valerian's face changed. Marek bowed slightly. "I use only what the court can verify." "Then verify the breath test." Valerian turned toward the scribe. "Were Blue Ember notes reviewed before certification?" The scribe searched the packet again. His fingers slowed. Marek's voice came calm. "Blue Ember notes were not command, readiness documents." "That was not my question," Valerian said. The scribe lowered his eyes. "No, Majesty. Clarissa Denholm's breath notes were not reviewed." Clarissa's hand tightened near the cord that held her wedding ring. Not because she was surprised, because she had written those notes beside sleeping dragons while dawn turned smoke blue around the stable beams. Sablethorn needed wide circles before crowd bells. Arvessa needed lower flame distance. Branth needed no chain tightening until after second breath. Every warning had already existed. It had simply not been invited into the room where men certified strength. Valerian's voice dropped. "Who removed breath mapping from readiness review?" Marek answered smoothly. "I excluded non-command material. Readiness means obedience, not emotional accommodation." Clarissa looked at Valerian. "Ask whether they prepared dragons for coronation, or prepared the court to admire control." The question entered him visibly. He looked from the polished dragon horns to the torn marble beneath Sablethorn's claws. The court had admired control, until control broke. "Did the readiness test measure obedience or breathing?" he asked. The scribe found the certification sheet. Marek's mouth tightened. "Only slightly." The scribe read, "Response to command posture, response to bell cue, response to throne flame proximity, response to chain placement, no breath, return measure recorded." Valerian stared at the sheet. "No breath? Return measure?" The scribe shook his head. "None, Majesty." Marek stepped forward. "Because breath return is not command readiness. It is Mistress Denholm's private theory." Clarissa's voice was low. "A dragon can stand still while drowning in memory." Sablethorn made a soft, broken sound. Not roar, not obedience. A breath that nearly failed. The blue circle widened beneath him before he could fall back into panic. Valerian took one step toward the dragon, then stopped. He did not command. He did not touch. For once, he watched the breath before trying to own it. Clarissa noticed. She did not reward him for learning late. "Read the certification conclusion," Valerian said. The High Coronation scribe held the page with both hands. "Coronation command, breath readiness certified. Siege, marked designation absent. Breath return testing not required for royal flame exposure." Marek said, "Correct, that is lawful." Clarissa looked at him. "Lawful is not the same as alive." The court heard her. The dragons heard her too. 3 blue circles turned slowly beneath the siege-marked beasts, holding the room just steady enough for truth to remain visible. Valerian's face had gone hard, but not at Clarissa now. "At the record, enter the missing category," he said. Marek's head lifted. "Majesty, enter it." The scribe dipped his pen. Clarissa did not breathe easier. A category written after panic was not protection before flame. The scribe read the amended line into the trembling court. Readiness, certification. Siege-marked dragons, certified command ready, without breath test. Marek did not deny siege-marked dragons had been certified without breath testing. He denied that Clarissa Denholm's missing notes would have changed the certification. The amended readiness line still trembled beneath the high coronation scribe's silver pen. Siege-marked dragons certified command, ready without breath test. Around the cerulean smoke court, nobles stood in ruined ceremony, their jewels dimmed by blue ash and throne smoke. The crown waited behind Valerian like a question no one wanted placed on his head. Marek folded his hands. Private stable notes are not royal command documents, Majesty. Mistress Denholm's observations may be sentimental, even useful in narrow care, but coronation readiness must remain uniform. Clarissa stood beside the broken brass chest. Ask where my notes went. Valerian turned toward the scribe. Where are Clarissa Denholm's breath notes? The scribe searched the readiness packet, then the coronation treatment board, then the blue-edged preparation sleeve. His face tightened. They are not attached, Majesty. Marek answered gently, because they were not required. Clarissa looked at him. Not required by the law you wrote around them. A murmur shifted through the court. Valerian's voice lowered. Were they submitted with the readiness packet? The scribe hesitated. Marek stepped in. Many papers are submitted before coronation. Not all are accepted into command review. That was not the question, Valerian said. The scribe swallowed. Yes, Majesty, they were submitted. Clarissa did not close her eyes this time. She wanted the court to see her hear it. For weeks, Marek had let them call her grief excessive, her smoke sentimental, her warnings vague. Yet her notes had reached the table before the flames, before the bells, before Sablethorn's claws tore royal marble. Valerian looked at Marek, who classified them as non-command material. Marek bowed slightly. I did, under coronation apothecary authority. Why? Because Blue Ember notes create dependence bias. A readiness certification must measure whether dragons obey the throne, not whether they prefer a widow's circles. Clarissa's voice remained steady. Ask who decided breath was not command material. Valerian did. Who decided breath was not command material? Marek's jaw tightened, then smoothed. I classified breath mapping as care notation, not command notation. Care notation, Clarissa repeated. That is a clean phrase for removing every warning that could have kept them breathing. Sablethorn's blue circle pulsed beneath him. Weak, still present. Valerian looked toward the iron-gray dragon, then back to the packet. Were Sablethorn's wide circle requirements entered? The scribe found an index slip. There is a reference to Sablethorn, but not the full note. Read what remains. The scribe read, Sablethorn, responsive to Blue Ember, monitor for attachment behaviors. Clarissa laughed once. It was not a kind sound. My note said, Sablethorn requires wide scent, circle before crowd bells. Do not compress circle under chain pressure. Allow 2 full breaths before command. The chain captain near Sablethorn went pale. Marek lifted a hand. That language presumes fragility. That language names sequence. Valerian's face hardened. Was Arvessa's flame distance limit entered? The scribe searched again. No flame distance limit attached. Clarissa looked toward the pale gold dragon, whose eyes still flickered toward the throne fire. My note said Arvessa must stand 3 pillar lengths from royal flame until first breath steadies. Marek said, the coronation crescent cannot be rebuilt around every creature's old fear. Clarissa turned to him. Then do not call it readiness when you only prepared the shape of a crescent. Valerian's hand closed over the packet. The paper bent. Not enough. But the court saw his control strain. Was Brandt's chain delay instruction entered? He asked. The scribe's lips parted, then closed. No, Majesty. Clarissa's voice dropped. Brandt was not to be tightened until after second breath. He survived the southern gate collapse under chain fire. Pressure before breath sends him back there. A chain crewman looked down at his hands, as if they had become weapons without his consent. Marek moved to reclaim the room. Mistress Denholm speaks as if every traumatic association can govern royal protocol. This is why her notes were unsuitable. Command cannot be rewritten by widow memory. Valerian looked at Clarissa. The old memory rose between them again. Her kitchen, one thread of blue smoke, his own breath broken after battle. She had not asked him to be less king. She had only helped him return to himself. He had accepted that in private, then let Marek call it dependence in public. Clarissa saw the realization and stepped away from it before it could become apology. "Do not look at me as if remembering is repair," she said. "Ask whether the certification omitted every Blue Ember recommendation." The words struck him before the court. He accepted them. "Good." Valerian turned to the scribe. "Did the certification omit every Blue Ember recommendation?" The scribe sorted through the revision slips with shaking hands. Marek's voice cooled. "It excluded non-command material. That is not omission. That is classification." "Read the exclusion sheet," Valerian said. The scribe lifted a thin blue page from beneath the packet cover. It had been folded into the spine so neatly that no one would have seen it unless forced to look. "Blue Ember Review," the scribe read. Clarissa Denholm's submitted breath maps reviewed. Wide circle requirements, flame distance limits, and chain delay instructions classified as non-command material, excluded from readiness certification. The court went still, not because it proved a crime, not yet, because it proved the warnings had existed before the panic. Clarissa stood very straight. There was no victory in hearing your erased words return only after the bodies you tried to protect had already broken. Marek bowed with controlled patience. "Excluded lawfully, Majesty." Clarissa looked at Valerian. "Lawful is how erasure dresses for court." Valerian's eyes darkened. He did not apologize. He did something harder for a king, in front of a half-crowned throne. "Attach the excluded breath maps to the active coronation record," he said. Marek's head snapped up. "Majesty, that compromises the certification." "No," Valerian said. "It reveals what the certification left outside." Clarissa did not thank him. Late truth was not mercy. The high coronation scribe pressed the blue sheet beneath the silver seal and read the new record aloud. "Blue Ember Review Exclusion. Clarissa Denholm's breath notes removed from readiness certification." Marek did not deny Clarissa Denholm's breath notes had been removed. He denied that anything dangerous had replaced them. The blue exclusion sheet lay beneath the silver seal, thin and damning. Clarissa's wide circle requirements, flame distance limits, and chain delay instructions had been removed from readiness certification before the royal bells ever sounded. The court had begun to understand absence. Clarissa knew absence was only half the wound. Something had filled the empty place her notes left behind. Sablethorn's breathing hitched again, faster this time, not panic rising from memory alone. His nostrils flared too sharply at the throne flame. His pupils tightened against the gold light, then widened until his eyes looked almost black. Clarissa's head turned. Arvessa did the same. Then Branth. "Ask what made their lungs race before the bells," Clarissa said. Marek's expression did not change. "Mistress Denholm has moved from records to guesswork." Valerian looked at the dragons. "Their breathing is accelerating." "Because the court remains unstable," Marek said. "Noise, crowd heat, broken rhythm. The beasts need command alignment, not another widow's theory." Clarissa stepped closer to Sablethorn, careful not to enter the blue circle. "No, this is not only fear. Fear pulls breath shallow. This is forced alertness." Someone sharpened them. A captain frowned. "Sharpened?" Marek answered smoothly. "Coronation dragons receive standard readiness support, nothing more." Valerian turned toward him. "What support?" Marek bowed. "A command stimulant, measured, lawful, used to keep war dragons responsive beneath ritual pressure." The court shifted. Clarissa did not. She had heard the answer before he gave it. She could smell it now beneath the burned blue ember ash. Hot clove, black salt, ironflower seed. A bright, cruel scent that made the body stand straighter while the mind lost room to return. "Name it," she said. Marek's eyes narrowed. "Crimson Wake." Sablethorn flinched at the word, as if the sound itself had struck him. Clarissa's voice went colder. "You gave Crimson Wake to siege, marked dragons before bells and royal flame?" Marek lifted his chin. "Crimson Wake improves command readiness. It heightens response to throne rhythm. It heightens response to everything. That is the point of alertness." "No," Clarissa said. "That is the danger of it." Valerian looked from Marek to Clarissa. "Explain." She hated that he asked only now. She explained anyway because the dragons had no time for her pride. Crimson Wake keeps a dragon aggressive enough to answer command quickly, she said. But in siege-marked lungs, it makes noise brighter, flame closer, chains heavier. You do not give it without breath mapping. You do not give it after removing scent circles. You do not give it before bells. Marek's voice remained calm. That caution is precisely why Blue Ember notes were excluded. Mistress Denholm would make every battlefield medicine bow to trauma vocabulary. Clarissa turned on him. You call it battlefield medicine because coronation guests like the word readiness better than stimulant. The nobles looked uneasy now, not sympathetic. Uneasy. That was where public truth often began. Valerian's jaw hardened. Was Crimson Wake listed in the readiness packet? The high coronation scribe searched quickly. There is a dosage appendix. Why was it not read with the certification? Marek answered. Because dosage belongs to apothecary administration, not public readiness review. Clarissa looked at Valerian. Ask whether the dosage warning mentioned bell sensitivity. Marek's head turned sharply. There. Not confession. Pressure. Valerian saw it too. Read the dosage warning. The scribe lifted a red-edged slip from the back of the packet. His face paled. Crimson Wake may increase reaction to sharp sound, open flame, mirror light, crowd heat, and restraint pressure in previously distressed beasts. A chain crewman swore under his breath. Marek's voice cut cleanly through the murmur. May increase. Not will. All command substances carry cautions. Clarissa looked at the 3 blue circles, and every caution named the coronation. Valerian stared at the red slip. Bells, flame, crowd heat, restraint pressure. Every tooth of the ceremony had been written there before it bit. Were siege, marked dragons given separate dosage limits? He asked. The scribe turned another page. No separate limit recorded. Marek stepped forward. No formal siege-marked class existed. We have established that. Clarissa's mouth tightened. You erased the class, then used its absence to dose them as if their lungs had no history. Valerian looked at her. The old private room rose again between them, one thread of blue ember, his hands shaking, Clarissa telling him that survival was not the same as weakness. He looked as if the memory had teeth now. She stopped it before it could become tenderness. Do not remember yourself in this, she said. Read what you gave them. The words struck him in front of everyone. He accepted them. Good. Did Crimson Wake replace the removed Blue Ember recommendations? Valerian asked. Marek's face remained composed. Replace is inaccurate. Crimson Wake served command readiness. Blue Ember notes served comfort. Clarissa said, breath is not comfort. The scribe lowered his eyes to the packet. Administration time, after Blue Ember review exclusion, before bell alignment. A thin cry moved through the court. Not from a person. Arvissa. Her blue circle widened too late beneath her trembling claws. Valerian took one step toward her, then stopped before command could become another pressure. He looked to Clarissa instead, not asking forgiveness, asking what would keep the dragon alive. That difference mattered. Not enough, but it mattered. Clarissa said, dim the throne flame by half, silence the second bell row, loosen Branth's chain after his next breath, not before. Marek snapped. She has no coronation authority. No, Clarissa said. I have the only instructions that have kept them in the room. Valerian turned to the flame priests. Dim the throne flame. Marek's eyes flashed. Majesty, the coronation flame. Dim it. The priests obeyed. Gold light lowered to amber. Sablethorn's pupils eased by one small degree. The court saw it. The scribe kept reading, voice thin. Crimson Wake dosage entered under War Apothecary Marek Sornell's seal. Marek bowed, lawfully. Clarissa looked at the red-edged slip. Lawful. Again, that beautiful word, standing beside danger. The scribe read the final line into the smoke-heavy court. Coronation dosage record. Crimson Wake. Stimulant administered after Blue Ember exclusion. The stimulant record did not make the dragon's panic louder. It made the court listen differently. Sablethorn's breath still dragged against the blue circle beneath him. Arvessa's eyes no longer rolled white, but every flicker of throne flame struck her pupils like a blade. Branth stood rigid at the eastern pillar, waiting for a chain pull that had not come, his bronze chest trembling with the effort not to return to the southern gate collapse. Clarissa watched all three. Marek watched the court. That was how he survived danger, by managing what people saw before they understood what had happened. Crimson Wake was lawfully administered, he said. The dosage heightened readiness. Mistress Denholm is using ordinary stimulant response to discredit coronation discipline. Clarissa did not look at him. Ordinary stimulant response does not make 3 siege-marked dragons lose breath before the second bell. Marek turned his palms outward. Then stabilize them. If your circles work, return the dragons to formation and prove there is no lasting harm. The trap was clean. If she refused, he would call her obstruction. If she obeyed, the coronation would use her work to hide what command had broken. Valerian saw it late. Again, Clarissa, he said. Her name came softer than command, rougher than public address. She did not answer softness. Do not ask me to make your coronation look safe, she said. Ask whether the dragons are safe. The words cut through the cerulean smoke court. Valerian accepted the strike. Good. He looked to the high coronation scribe. Record her distinction. Marek's head lifted. Majesty, this is not a philosophy hearing. No, Clarissa said. It is a breathing crisis wearing gold banners. Sablethorn's circle thinned at the outer rim. Clarissa stepped toward him at once, not into the circle but beside it, where the smoke could choose the dragon instead of her. She lowered her voice into a rhythm too quiet for most of the court to hear. Here, she whispered. Not the siege road, not the falling tower. Here. Sablethorn's claws scraped once. The blue circle widened. Valerian watched her hands empty, steady, never touching the dragon, unless his breath gave permission. Marek watched, Valerian watching. See how he answers her? Marek said. Dependence. Exactly what I warned. Clarissa's smile was small and tired. A drowning man answers air, too. Do you call that dependence? A chain crewman lowered his head. The priests did not. They still guarded the coronation flame, embarrassed by its dimness. Clarissa turned to Arvessa. Lower the side torches. Marek snapped. The coronation lighting is not yours to command. Arvessa flinched at the sharpness. Clarissa's voice did not rise. That sound just cost her half a breath. Valerian turned to the priests. Lower them. The side torches dimmed. Arvessa's blue circle steadied. Not healed. Not calm. Steadied. Clarissa moved to Branth, careful of his chain shadow. Do not loosen yet. The eastern chain captain froze. Mistress? Wait for his second full inhale. Marek stepped closer. Chain delay is not coronation protocol. Neither is dosing a siege survivor with Crimson Wake after removing breath maps, Clarissa said. The court went silent. Valerian's gaze sharpened, but she lifted one hand before he could turn that sentence into accusation. Not yet, she said. Do not hunt motive while they are still trying to breathe. The command in her voice surprised the room. It surprised Valerian most. He obeyed. Branth inhaled once. Not enough. Clarissa waited. The court waited with her, hundreds of jeweled nobles learning for the first time that breath could be a public law. Branth inhaled again. Now, Clarissa said. The chain captain loosened one ring. Branth's body shuddered, then settled into the circle. A low, exhausted sound moved through the 3 dragons. Not gratitude. Survival. Marek recovered quickly. Excellent. Then the formation can be restored under adjusted lighting and chain sequence. Clarissa turned from Branth. No. The word carried farther than shouting would have. Marek's face remained calm, but something behind his eyes hardened. Refusal to restore royal formation during active coronation is a serious obstruction. Then write it clearly, Clarissa said. Clarissa Denholm stabilized 3 stimulant, exposed, siege, marked dragons, and refused to return them to spectacle. Valerian stared at her. Pain moved across his face, not because she had humiliated him, because she had finally named what he had chosen. Spectacle. Marek bowed toward the throne. Majesty, your coronation cannot remain hostage to a widow's moral performance. Clarissa's fingers went to the black cord beneath her collar. Her wedding ring lay there, hidden against her skin, warmer now from her pulse. My husband died during a royal parade because someone called breath preparation moral performance, she said. The court shifted. Valerian looked at her sharply. Marek's expression stilled. only for a breath. But Clarissa saw it. So did Valerian. She did not press. Not yet. The dragons will not return to formation, she said. Not while Crimson Wake is in their lungs. Not while Blue Ember circles are treated as shame. Not while bells, flame, chains, and crowd heat are still arranged for the comfort of the crown instead of the breath of the beasts carrying it. Valerian's voice came low. What do they require? She looked at him then. Not at the king. At the man who once let her teach him how to breathe and then burned that lesson before his court. Distance from flame. No second bell row. Chains loosened only by breath count. Fresh blue ember laid properly, not ash scraped from humiliation. And every Crimson Wake dosage reviewed before one dragon is called ready. Marek said, impossible before coronation. Clarissa answered, then coronation waits. No one breathed. Valerian did not say yes. Not immediately. That delay stayed between them like another burned thing. Clarissa stepped away from the dragons. Sablethorn's head followed 1 inch. She stopped, but she did not return to him. If you want them alive, she said, you will stop asking me to make danger look disciplined. Then she walked toward the broken brass chest, gathered the few unburned resin crumbs from the cracked hinge, and closed them in her palm. She did not bow to Valerian. She did not ask permission. The high coronation scribe lifted his pen, his voice unsteady. Ceremonial formation status. Clarissa Denholm refused to return stimulant-exposed dragons to coronation line. Clarissa's refusal did not stop the coronation. It stripped the ceremony of its lie. The throne flame still burned. Smaller now, amber instead of gold. The crown still waited on its black cushion. Nobles still stood beneath ruined banners, pretending their fear was dignity. But no dragon had returned to the coronation line, and 3 blue circles still turned on the marble like quiet accusations. Valerian looked at the formation space where Sablethorn, Arvessa, and Branth should have stood. Empty. That was what repair looked like first. Not forgiveness. Absence. Marek stepped beside him. Majesty, delay will become rumor. Rumor will become weakness. Permit me to adjust the dosage, restore the lighting, and bring the dragons back by controlled command. Clarissa turned from the broken brass chest. No. Marek's mouth tightened. You do not command this court. No, she said. I am the reason its dragons are still breathing in it. The line struck the chain crews first, then the captains, then Valerian. He did not look away from her. Bring the full apothecary dosage ledger, he said. Marek's expression remained smooth. The active dosage record has already been read. The full ledger. Majesty, war apothecary ledgers contain protected readiness formulas. Valerian's voice hardened. Then the crown will be protected from them by reading. Clarissa watched him carefully. He was not apologizing. Good. Apology would have been cheaper. Marek lowered his head. As you command. But he did not move. Valerian noticed. So slowly? Clarissa asked. Marek looked at her. So carefully. Unlike widow grief, royal medicine must be handled with precision. Valerian turned before Clarissa could answer. Do not use her grief again. The court went very still. Marek bowed. I meant no insult. You meant a useful one. Clarissa looked at Valerian then. Not with softness. With measurement. He had defended her name in public. Late. Insufficient. But public. She gave him nothing for it. The full dosage ledger arrived in a black iron case carried by 2 apothecary clerks. Both kept their eyes down. Marek reached for the seal. Valerian stopped him. The scribe opens it. Marek's hand paused in the air. A small thing. A revealing thing. The high coronation scribe broke the wax and lifted the ledger. Red-edged pages shifted under the court light. The smell of clove, black salt, and ironflower seed rose from the paper itself. Clarissa's stomach tightened. Crimson Wake. More than 1 dose. Valerian saw her face change. What is it? Ask how many dragons received it. Marek said. All coronation dragons receive standardized support. Valerian looked at the scribe. How many? The scribe read. 12. A murmur moved through the court. Clarissa's fingers closed around the resin crumbs in her palm. All 12? Marek spoke smoothly. Uniform readiness prevents uneven formation response. Uniform danger makes a beautiful line, Clarissa said. Valerian's jaw clenched. Were the 3 siege-marked dragons given different preparation? The scribe turned the page. No separate preparation recorded. Marek folded his hands. Because siege-marked classification was not accepted. Clarissa looked at him. You rejected the category, then used rejection as permission. Sablethorn exhaled sharply. The blue circle beneath him widened at the edge. Valerian looked toward the dragon before he spoke. That mattered more than his anger. Read the warning column, he said. The scribe hesitated. For all 12 entries? For L. Marek's voice cooled. Majesty, public reading of dosage cautions may inflame fear. Valerian turned on him. Fear is already here. Tonight we stop letting you name it weakness. Clarissa's breath caught before she could stop it. He heard it. He did not reach. Good. The scribe began reading. Crimson Wake warning. May heighten response to sharp bells, open flame, crowd heat, mirrored light, restraint pressure, and sudden command repetition. He turned another page. Same warning. Another. Same warning. By the 6th entry, the nobles no longer murmured. By the 9th, the priests had lowered the throne flame without being ordered. By the 12th, every chain crewman in the court was staring at Marek. Marek bowed with controlled patience. All warnings were general cautions. No injury occurred. Clarissa's voice came quiet. A dragon does not have to die for danger to be real. Valerian looked at the trembling beasts, then at the half-crowned throne. War apothecary Marek Sornell is removed from direct dragon handling until the dosage review is complete. Marek's head lifted. Majesty, you will not approach the dragons, the chains, the flame settings, or the Blue Ember residue. This is an overcorrection caused by panic. No, Valerian said. This is the first correction made before the next harm. Clarissa looked down at the resin crumbs in her palm. Before the next harm. Late truth again, but less late than before. Marek's eyes moved to her hand. Those crumbs are court evidence. Clarissa closed her fist. They are the only unburned Blue Ember left in this room. They belong to the crown. Valerian spoke before she could. No, they belong to the woman who made them. The words landed harder than he expected. Clarissa felt them. She hated that she felt them. Marek smiled faintly. Then perhaps Mistress Denholm can prepare new circles and prove loyalty to the crown. Clarissa lifted her eyes. I will prepare circles for dragons, not loyalty for kings. Valerian accepted it in front of everyone. Enter that distinction, he said. The scribe wrote with a shaking hand. Marek was guided back beyond the dragon radius by 2 royal guards. He went without struggle, which made Clarissa trust him less. The ledger remained open on the bronze table. The scribe read the restriction into the record. War apothecary restriction. Marek Sornell removed from Dragon Breath Authority pending dosage review. Marek's removal did not make the cerulean smoke court safe. It only removed the easiest hand to blame. The dragons still breathed under dimmed flame, 12 bodies of scale and memory held between royal ceremony and survival. Sablethorn, Arvessa, and Branth remained inside fading blue circles. The other 9 stood farther back, eyes too bright, lungs too fast, each one carrying Crimson Wake beneath polished discipline. Clarissa held the last unburned Blue Ember crumbs in her palm. Enough for 1 proper circle. Not 12. Not a coronation. Valerian looked at her hand, then at the crown waiting behind him. Can you make more? Yes, she said. Hope moved through the court too quickly. She closed her fist. But I will not make it for ceremony. The hope broke. Marek, held beyond the dragon radius by royal guards, gave a soft laugh. There it is, Majesty. Refusal dressed as principle. Clarissa turned toward him. No. Principle is what you remove from a record before calling obedience readiness. A few nobles looked away. Valerian did not. What will you make it for? He asked. Recovery circles, breath mapping, bell desensitization over time, flame distance by dragon, not throne design, chain sequence by inhale, not parade rhythm, and a written law that no battle trauma care may be renamed sedation because it embarrasses command. The words did not shake. Neither did she. That was why they frightened the court. A widow who wept could be pitied. A widow who named procedure could change a kingdom. Valerian stepped down from the first throne stair. State your terms for the record. Marek's eyes flashed. Majesty, She is dictating coronation law while holding royal dragons hostage. Clarissa looked at Sablethorn. The iron-gray dragon's wing scars tightened when someone in the gallery dropped a silver cup. His blue circle flickered. She did not move toward him yet. "They are not hostages," she said. "They are patients with wings, memory, and fire in their lungs. The fact that your court only recognizes them as weapons is why we are standing in smoke." The chain crews heard her first, then the captains, then the king. Valerian turned to the high coronation scribe. "Enter her words." Clarissa's gaze cut to him. "Do not make my grief decorative. I am not. You are a king in front of a delayed crown. Everything you record can become decoration if it costs you nothing." That hurt him. Good. He looked toward the crown, then away from it. "Remove the crown cushion from the throne," he said. The priests stiffened. "Marek vent utterly still." "Majesty," one priest whispered, "until the coronation is completed." "It will not be completed over frightened lungs." Clarissa felt the sentence land in her chest. She did not forgive him with it, but she heard the cost. 2 priests lifted the black cushion and carried the unfinished crown away from the flame steps. The court watched the symbol leave its place, and for the first time that night, Valerian stood before them not as a crowned certainty, but as a man being made to answer for what he had chosen. He faced Clarissa again. "State your terms." She opened her hand. The resin crumbs glowed faintly blue. "1," she said. "Blue Ember is to be entered as breath-mapping work, not sedation." The scribe wrote. 2. Siege-marked dragons receive individual circle width, flame distance, bell exposure, and chain timing before any royal display. The scribe wrote faster. 3. No command, breath certification is valid without breath return testing. The chain captain near Branth bowed his head slightly. 4. No apothecary stimulant may be administered after breath maps are excluded. Marek spoke sharply. "That would paralyze readiness." Clarissa looked at him. "No, it would prevent you from calling panic readiness until it breaks." Valerian's voice hardened. "Continue." Clarissa looked at him for a long moment. There were other terms she could have named. Her public apology, her restored place, her husband's report, her own grief, dragged through court language until it became a weapon against her. She chose the dragons first, because that was what Marek had counted on men like Valerian not understanding. 5, she said. The Cerulean Smoke Court will create an independent breath office outside War Apothecary Command. Its records cannot be edited by coronation officials, battle commanders, priests, or kings after filing. The court went silent. Outside command. Outside priests. Outside kings. Valerian absorbed the blow without looking away. "Granted for emergency review," he said. "No." His brows drew together. Clarissa stepped closer, blue resin bright in her palm. "Not granted. Recognized. Breath existed before your crown noticed it." A slow murmur moved through the court. Valerian lowered his head once. Not enough to be a bow. Enough to be submission to the truth in her wording. "Recognized," he said. Clarissa hated how much that mattered. Marek's voice slipped through the silence. "And who leads this independent office? The grieving widow who trained dragons to answer smoke." Clarissa turned toward the dragons. Sablethorn lowered his head. Arvessa followed. Then Branth, not kneeling, breathing toward her. The distinction mattered. "I will lead it until the dragons no longer need me to be the only person in this court who hears them breathe," she said. Valerian's face changed. Not with desire, with understanding that love, if it ever came again, would have to stand behind her authority. Clarissa knelt beside the broken marble and crushed the last resin crumbs between her fingers. One fresh blue ember thread rose. She did not send it to the throne. She sent it to the dragons. The smoke formed one small circle at the center of the court, empty and waiting, not beneath a beast, not around a king, but between them all. A circle for the next breath, before the next command. The high coronation scribe read the new entry aloud. Blue Ember Authority Claim. No dragon returns to coronation line until battle trauma care is named and protected by law. The unfinished crown remained away from the throne. That absence did what speeches could not. It made the court understand that Dragon King Valerian Ostmere had not delayed a ceremony for sentiment. He had stopped a crown from being placed above frightened lungs. The small blue ember circle Clarissa had made from the last resin crumbs turned at the center of the cerulean smoke court. It did not drift toward Valerian. It did not obey the priests. It did not brighten for applause. It waited. Marek Sornell watched it from beyond the dragon radius, guarded but not yet defeated. A symbolic circle changes nothing, Majesty. Law requires evidence, not theater. Clarissa looked at him. Then let the smoke answer evidence. Valerian turned to her. Can it? No, she said. Not by command. But Blue Ember remembers breath. If Crimson Wake is in their lungs, the smoke will darken where return has been forced away. Marek's mouth tightened. Blue Ember cannot diagnose apothecary dosage. It does not diagnose you, Clarissa said. It follows what the dragons are trying to survive. The court heard the difference. So did Valerian. He faced the high coronation scribe. Record every visible smoke response. Marek stepped forward. The guards blocked him. Majesty, smoke reactions are not legal testimony. Valerian did not look away from the dragons. Neither was Widow Grief, until your records started bleeding truth around it. Clarissa felt that line strike her. Not enough to heal 7 years. Enough to mark that he had finally named the weapon used against her. She knelt beside the empty circle and opened both hands. No command, no crown, no formation. Breathe where you are. Sablethorn inhaled first. The blue circle at the center of the court stretched toward him in a thin ribbon. It touched the edge of his fading ash ring and darkened. Not black, deep cobalt, bruised through with red sparks. The high coronation scribe gasped. Stimulant heat present. Arvessa breathed. Her circle darkened too. Then Branth. Then the other 9 dragons, one by one, each ring answering with the same red-veined blue, until the cerulean smoke court looked as if 12 quiet storms had opened beneath 12 sets of claws. Above each darkened circle, smoke twisted upward. Not into a crown, not into Clarissa's name, into a copper apothecary seal. Marek Sornell's seal. A sound moved through the court. Not panic this time, fury learning where to stand. Marek lifted his chin. My seal marks lawful administration. Clarissa rose slowly. Then read what each lawful dose did. The scribe bent over the smoke slate as the rings pulsed beneath the dragons. Sablethorn, Crimson Wake, heat-aggravated crowd, bell response. Arvessa. Flame sensitivity heightened beyond safe threshold. Branth, restraint pressure amplified before second breath. Same pattern repeating across all 12 dragons. Valerian's face went cold. All 12. All 12, Majesty. Marek's calm frayed at the edge. I kept the royal line alert. A coronation cannot be carried by drowsy beasts and widow circles. Clarissa turned to him. They were never drowsy. They were injured by memory, and you made memory louder. The words landed so cleanly that even the priests lowered their eyes. Valerian looked at the scribe, opened past parade dosage records under Marek's seal. Marek's face changed. Only once, but Clarissa saw it. Her heart knew before the page arrived. The old royal parade, 7 years ago. Her husband's final day, bells, flame banners, a dragon-breaking formation while the report called it crowd accident. The scribe opened the archived record with trembling hands. Parade year 13, he read. Blue Ember calming sequence requested by Clarissa Denholm for Western Line Dragon. Request denied. Crimson Wake administered under War Apothecary Marek Sornell's seal. Clarissa's body went very still. Valerian looked at her, but he did not reach. Good. If he had touched her then, she might have broken for the wrong reason. The scribe continued, voice breaking. Incident followed bell flare and chain pressure. Civilian casualty. Thomas Denholm. The name passed through the court like a funeral bell. Clarissa's husband returned from an old record, not as accident, not as tragic crowd loss, but as a man killed by the same arrogance now trembling under blue smoke. Marek spoke too quickly. That parade was unstable before my administration. Clarissa looked at him. You withheld the circle. I followed command standards. You buried my husband under standards. Silence answered her. Valerian stepped down fully from the throne dais. Marek Sornell is removed from all apothecary authority, arrested under Crown inquiry, and barred from dragon breath records, dosage stores, flame preparation, and coronation law. Marek stared. You will ruin the appearance of royal strength. Valerian's voice carried to the galleries, the captains, the chain crews, and the people gathering beyond the broken doors. Royal strength is not the ability to make suffering look disciplined. He turned toward Clarissa, not as a lover asking to be forgiven, as a king who had helped build the room that harmed her. I burned your work to prove I did not need what had once saved me, he said publicly. I let this court called trauma weakness because I wanted command to look clean. I accepted gentleness in private and condemned it in public. Enter that. The scribe wrote every word. Clarissa's eyes burned, but no tear fell. She had cried enough in rooms no one recorded. Valerian faced the court again. New law, Blue Ember breath mapping, is recognized as dragon trauma care, not sedation. No battle trauma treatment may be destroyed by crown command. No stimulant may replace breath maps. No coronation, parade, or royal flame rite may proceed without individual breath return clearance. The independent breath office stands outside war apothecary command. He looked back at Clarissa. And it does not belong to me. Clarissa held his chaze. There was still love there. That was the cruelest part. Love had survived where trust had not. What does it belong to? He asked. To the dragons first, she said. To the records second. To whoever can hear pain without needing it to look pretty. A faint blue circle formed around her feet, not binding, recognizing. Sablethorn lowered his head. Arvessa followed. Then Branth. Then the others, not kneeling to a queen, not bowing to a crown, but breathing toward the woman who had given them a path back without asking them to forget the war. Hours later, after Marek was taken below and the dragons slept under dim flame, Valerian found Clarissa beside the broken brass chest. He stopped several steps away. What may I repair tomorrow? He asked. She looked at him for a long time. My husband's record, she said. Every dragon harmed by Crimson Wake, every widow called unstable for knowing what war leaves behind. And after that? After that, you may come to the breath office and ask what the dragons need. His throat moved. And what will I be to you there? Clarissa touched the black cord where her wedding ring rested against her heart. Not king first, she said. Not the man who once needed my smoke. A witness if you can bear it. A student if you can stay humble. Anything more will be my choice. Valerian bowed his head. This time, the court was not watching. That made it truer. The final Blue Ember record dried in blue-black ink beside the abandoned crown. Blue Ember public reversal. Marek Sornell's stimulant seal exposed over every dragon he endangered. Thomas Denholm's death corrected. And Clarissa Denholm's breathwork protected by law before love.